HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.
Hello and welcome to our special campaign Future Female Forward, where we have conversations on women's empowerment on the shop floor, in workplaces and in boardrooms. According to a recently published report by the CFA Institute, at 30%, the IT industry has the highest women participation rates in the industry, followed by financial services. But we're still a long way off when it comes to greater participation of women in the workforce in the country. Today, our focus is on HCLTech, one of the leading IT service providers in the country. With us today to speak about HCLTech's journey towards greater gender diversity are Jill Kouri, Chief Marketing Officer at HCLTech. Thank you very much for being with us. And Ramachandran Sundararajan, Chief People Officer at HCLTech. Thank you very much, Ram, for being with us as well. Jill, if I could begin with you first, why don't you tell us about your own corporate journey, some of the hurdles that you had to see on the way, and your advice for women who are aspiring to make it big in the corporate world?
Well, first of all, I'm about to celebrate my 2-year anniversary here at HCLTech. And with about well over 30 years in my career journey, I am thrilled to be here. My career journey did not start with an education in STEM. I actually majored in journalism. And I have a history of working in B2B advertising and marketing, but started my career in tech about 20 plus years ago. I think having a lot of intellectual curiosity and the desire to work in a fast-paced, ever-changing environment are key characteristics that can drive success for anyone of any gender. But my career journey has been fraught with a number of challenges as I am trying to make my way in a career that I didn't necessarily have the official training and skills for. I think the biggest thing that has helped me achieve success has been having a series of amazing role models, both men and women, and also working for leaders like CVK, our CEO and managing director, who are extremely empowering and who are realizing that big ideas, great ideas come from anywhere across the organization at all levels.
Ram, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the company, a lot of women who would be looking up at Jill and wanting to become leaders like her. I would like to ask you about the current participation of women in the workforce at HCLTech. Give us a sense of what is the participation like in the boardroom and across all aspects of the business.
Our own board, if you look at 30% women representation is there, and that percolates down to the organization as well. If I look at HCLTech today, global workforce, about 30% are women. If we look back over the last 5 years, the progress that we have made has been significant, almost 20% improvement from the last 5 years. And that's on the back of two things I would call out. One, as an industry, we grew, and HCLTech was one of the fastest growing in the industry. With growth comes more opportunities, and we need to be able to present that opportunities to everybody equally and make sure that the decision-making processes are without any bias. And fighting subconscious bias, unconscious bias is the most important thing to make sure that the opportunity is meaningful and fair for everybody. And that is something we have worked very hard to achieve over the years. That made a big difference. Now, the moment you provide opportunity, you see results coming out of what we do. Of course, that's supported by a variety of policies and programs that we can talk about. The single most important thing is providing opportunity and make sure that the decision-making processes in the organization are open, transparent, objective, without bias. I think that makes a big difference.
Right. You spoke about having policies without bias, promoting employees without any kind of bias in mind. How do you do that? And do you think it's easier to do it in the tech industry?
I would think, yes, it is easy to do in the tech industry. From the very beginning, we have had the advantage of an industry that's growing fast. And hence, we need to every year induct a lot of people into our businesses, HCLTech included. And we have gone through phases where the availability of a skilled talent pool is not always matching up to demand. So we had to make investments to attract people into the sector and invest in their development. And that means that you have to try and embrace as many different cohorts as you possibly can. The recruitment that we do from campuses represent 46% of people who we take from campuses represent women. Our selection process is as transparent and objective as it can be. It's a combination of assessing attitudes. It's a combination of assessing learnability. And then we believe that if somebody has a right attitude and can learn, we believe it's easy to impart technical skills through training programs. The other important area where objectivity becomes important is promotions. Right now, how do we do that? For a start, we need to invest in development opportunities for everybody equally. One of the important steps that we take is no decision is made by one single individual. You always have a collective view that goes into a decision process, and that ensures that there is objectivity and transparency. That helps.
Right. Jill, if you would like to add to that, and I'd also like to ask you, HCLTech has enabling policies to cater to women at different stages of their professional career and lives. You have a returnship program, you have a She Leads program, a Woman Powers program. Could you give us a sense of how these different programs really help women rise up the corporate ladder?
Sure. Well, first, let me just add on to a few things Ram said. I'm very proud of our board diversity, and I'm sure you've seen some of the studies out there, for example, one from McKinsey, that indicate that the higher the board diversity, and 30% is the optimal number, the greater the focus on key ESG and sustainability efforts. I think there's like a 1.5x increase that goes up as the board becomes more diverse. So I think this tone from the top with our board diversity is really starting to trickle down into the organization. And I think really diversity has to start from the top. On the programs and policies for women at various stages of their careers here, broadly speaking, I think we've got a very active and vibrant women's ERG. And we're doing a lot of learning and training on an ongoing basis, both getting our senior female clients to present mostly virtually and interact with our employees on a regular basis. We call this the Fem Inspiration Program. And then we've got this I Motivate program that allows senior HCLTech women to spend a lot of time with our female employees across the organization. There are some great programs for women who are pregnant or who are returning into the office post-pregnancy. HCL also has a company called HCL Healthcare, and HCL Healthcare has a presence on 3 of our largest campuses across India, Noida, Bangalore, and Chennai. We have on-site clinics that provide best-in-class medical care both for our employees, their dependents, and their parents, right? There's parental care as well.
Right. That's very interesting, Jill. Ram, could you tell us more about using digital tools to increase gender diversity, greater mentorship for women? How will this really function? And a question that I'd like to add to that, to what extent have you been able to prevent attrition of women who are probably at a difficult stage in their lives or who may have to pull out of the workforce? How are you able to stop them from leaving or switching jobs?
I'll highlight 3 programs that we run. Jill mentioned about Mentor Me. It's a digital platform which connects people globally. One of the important things that we need to provide is you don't necessarily need to look for a mentor who's going to sit next to you. In today's world, you should be able to connect to somebody anywhere in the world. So we need to have a digital platform, and this platform connects people digitally across the world. And that means that we can operate at scale. So our ambition is that we should be able to cover about 100,000 people connected through this platform. Opportunity is important. And everyone should have access to every opportunity that's available. We have a platform called Talent Exchange, which is essentially an internal talent marketplace where all the opportunities that exist in the organization is made transparently visible to everybody, no restrictions whatsoever, and it almost acts like an external talent marketplace. And everybody's skills matter when you look at what opportunity you want to pursue. There are two things that's important there. One, to know what opportunities are there which you would be interested in pursuing, and you can apply, put yourself forward for that, and you get assessed and selected in any way that you would do in an external assessment. You get guided, you get to know what's available. If you're ready, you can go for it. If you're not ready as yet, but you still want to pursue it, you take up the opportunity that's provided through aspirational learning. I think that's how we promote people from within. You choose what you want to do. You're not controlled by what somebody else decides for you. You decide for yourself. We have a program called Stay in Touch, and that is provided through by other senior women colleagues who can be of support to you. That's also provided through the HR partners for different business units that's there. So that's one way by which we make sure that we understand what's going on in women's life so that we are able to support. Combination of all of these things make sure that we are able to retain more women in our workplace than we otherwise would be able to do.
But Jill, if I would like to ask you about women pursuing or hoping to pursue a career in STEM, how can we ensure that more women are able to pursue this career?
Formal education should not be preventative to making a great career in STEM. I think I first want to give a little kudos to India for being further ahead than most of the rest of the world. I mean, there are ongoing campaigns in the US and in Europe that are trying to drive the numbers up for women who have careers in STEM. I think they're very low, like in the 12 to 17% of the total workforce in some countries. So India does seem to be on the leading edge. To increase awareness of the career opportunities in STEM, I think there's a lot that has to be done in schools, in even starting in grade schools. There are great organizations. I'm not sure if there's a chapter in India called Girls Who Code, and other nonprofit groups that are doing an amazing job of just creating that greater awareness of all of the career opportunities available. And I think there are other statewide and citywide programs that I see across the US and Europe. So I think reinforcement from both corporates and non-corporates will continue to help drive greater awareness. I think one of the things that we're doing that's really unique at HCLTech is to find students who have the right core skills and the right soft skills who can make a career in STEM. And instead of them completing a secondary degree, we are offering them apprenticeships after high school. So we've got, in some cases, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds who are coming into our organization, and we are giving them on-the-job training, ongoing learning and training. And then in the case of a few programs we have in the US, we are paying for them to go back to school. We've got a couple of relationships with universities in the US to get their actual graduate degree while they're working here. So I think that's been a great success for us, which we've drawn on from some of the work that we've done across India through our TechBee program and other New Vistas programs. So getting these students who already have the right appetite and softer skills, and then helping them mold and shape by our own training programs, I think is quite helpful.
All right, on that note, we're going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. Our conversation with Ram and Jill at the HCLTech headquarters continues. Don't go anywhere. Our campaign Future Female Forward continues right after this break.
HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective. HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.
Welcome back. You are watching our special campaign, Future Female Forward, where we have conversations on greater gender parity. And joining us are Ramachandran Sundararajan, Chief People's Officer at HCLTech, and Jill Kouri, Chief Marketing Officer at HCLTech. Ram, we have a high percentage of women graduating in STEM, but the percentage of women pursuing STEM-related jobs is just about 14%. Why do we see this gap?
Yeah, I think that's a challenge that we need to address. It's a real problem, and corporates can do more. If I give an example of what we do at HCLTech and what Jill was referring to, this program called TechB, it's all about early engagement, motivating people to show interest in STEM. And if you're a high schooler, and if you are to make a choice between should I pursue something in STEM or not, that's the time that we need to be able to engage. Today, if I look at HCLTech, we have more than 8,000 people who are participating in this program. 33% of them are women. Right? It's a very conscious effort that's being made to say that we engage early, we create awareness, and we motivate people to pursue a career in STEM. And that's going to be important. And interventions of that kind will be instrumental in driving this change. We've been able to get 1/3 of people participating in these programs to be women. That's quite significant compared to the 14% that you're referring to. And these are people who were engaged at a point they were about to make a choice as to whether or not they want to get into STEM and whether or not they want to follow a tech career. We've been able to encourage them to participate. I think programs of this kind, more of this will help bridge that gap is what I think.
Right. Jill, if I were to ask you, you spoke about how HCLTech is setting a global industry standard when it comes to 30% participation of women in the boardroom. But what is the trend in the larger tech industry across the world? Do you think the percentage of women participation in boardrooms at leadership levels is a cause for concern?
I think that we are doing quite well with our board diversity. I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done in board diversity all over the world, for sure. I think we're on the leading edge there. I just want to call out a couple of points that I think are particularly relevant for women and Gen Z actually in particular. And that is that there is so much opportunity and variability in this industry where you're not studying for 4 years to do this one job. Being able to come to an organization like HCLTech is, as we've just recently come up with our new employee value proposition, which is Find Your Spark, it gives you so much variability in the work that you do. You're making a career here. You could have 30 different jobs at this organization in the course of a career. And I think Gen Zs are known to have a desire to change quickly and maybe shorter attention spans. And there are other characteristics like that. So I think this opportunity to be able to move around and also have a lot of enrichment, like just all of these learning and training opportunities. You can chart your own course because we do skills-based versus role-based training. Tech is not a one-size-fits-all proposition. There's so many different directions that one can go if they want to make a career in this industry.
So if you like change and a lot of disruption, then probably tech is the place to be.
Maybe you have to be a little crazy too, but it's a really vibrant, exciting atmosphere. And you know, we're filming this in India. As someone who lives in the U.S., I also get a lot of excitement in working for a truly global organization and every day talking to people.
Ram, I also wanted to ask you, what is the larger goal that HCLTech has in terms of gender diversity? Do you have a 50% goal as well?
Gender diversity is one. Generational diversity is going to be an important thing. Just about 3 years back, 11% of our workforce were Gen Z. Today we are about 25%. Taking this forward for 3 years down the line, it's likely to be more closer to 48, 50%, right? So that's going to be an important thing. Now, one way to improve gender diversity is also about improving gender diversity within that mix. We do pursue a goal. There's a 2030 goal, which we very aggressively pursue, but that encompasses all dimensions of diversity, from idea to design to development to deployment. Is managed by women in each of these programs. Now, I look at initiatives of this kind and then ask the question how impactful these initiatives are, not because it is being used in one pocket, but we have the ability to use it at the enterprise level. And who's leading that initiative? A woman colleague of mine, right? I think if we are open to giving opportunities, if you are objective about what can be achieved, and be ambitious about what we can achieve, I think there's a lot to achieve here.
One question to each of you. Jill, starting with you. You told us that tech is all about change, it's all about disruption, and we're looking at a world moving towards AI and the risks related to AI as well. There are so many risks that everyone is talking about currently. In this kind of an atmosphere, in this fast-changing, disruptive atmosphere in the tech industry, what does a woman really bring to the room, and what kind of a balance does she bring?
One of the things a woman is going to bring to a room is maybe a greater emotional intelligence. And clearly we have a lot of people who are off the charts brilliant from an IQ perspective, but EQ is equally important. So diverse teams not only win more work, I mean, from a client-facing perspective, it's a mandatory, but I think diverse teams, if you talk about AI, are going to bring a more responsible view on the power of AI. Diverse teams have to also go beyond gender. Diversity is critical across the board when you're talking about things, new technologies like AI.
Final thoughts, Ram, why do you think embracing a greater amount of empowerment of women, greater gender parity, why is it important for the tech industry and also startups and new entrants in the business?
Today we are talking about women as employees in a corporate setup. Women are customers, they're consumers as well. Now, if you are in a business where women are your customers and your consumers in society, who better to understand your customer and a consumer better than another woman? It's in the interest of business success that you need to have your organizations that's representative of the communities that you're servicing, right? It's a business imperative, not an aspirational statement to be just put out there. That's the way I look at it. I think it's important to be competitive, it's important to be aspirational and ambitious, and that will help us solve a number of different problems.
Thank you so much, Ram and Jill, for joining us on this wonderful broadcast for our campaign Future Female Forward. And I'm sure this is a masterclass, not just for women, but for men as well in the tech industry and across the industry as well. Thank you once again for being with us. That's all we have time for on this special broadcast, part of our campaign Future Female Forward. We were joining you from the HCLTech headquarters in Noida. Thank you very much for joining. Goodbye.
HSBC presents CNBC-TV18 Future Female Forward, the Women's Collective.